Hey, I'm JD Frost, and welcome to the Daily Ledger podcast. I got an awesome guest with me today. It is Moe Falah, and he is with Simple Solar, or running Simple Solar. Moe has been a client of our company for a couple of years now, and an investor with us in some deals, and also has an incredible business that has been growing and growing and growing ever since I've known him. And so, Moe, welcome to the Daily Ledger podcast. Thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, thanks, JD. Thanks for having me.
I've always called you Moe, and that's what I feel like everybody calls you. But can you tell me your full? Can you tell me your full name?
Yeah, it's Mohammed Falah.
Mohammed Falah. Awesome. And if you don't mind, Mo, tell me a little bit about like what got you to right here today. Like if you were to give me like the 3 to 4 minute synopsis, how did you get to where you are today? You just let me know you're in Houston now, which I thought you were still in Florida, but that's what happens from time to time. Time flies. So yeah, tell us how you got here.
So how'd I get here? I failed a lot early on, real early. I got engaged with business probably at the age of probably around like 14, and just always wanted to find something that I could hustle on. Never grew up, wanting a dream job, but I always knew that I would grow up to be rich and successful. So there wasn't anything that like I ever like really aspired to be. I just knew that there was wealth out there, and that if other people could have it, I could have it too. So never really ever worked a job. My mind always worked in, you have something at this price and you sell it at this price, and there's a margin in between, and you just collect that. So it could be DNA. I'm Middle Eastern, and our culture naturally plays on a barter system. So it could be something that just culturally worked, and I just adopted that. Like I said, I failed a lot growing up. I got into the real estate game. I was wholesaling. I was flipping. I put a couple businesses under by like working for them as sales, because they didn't know how to manage cash flow, which is super important. Like if you don't know how to manage cash flow, sometimes it's an even bigger problem than not generating enough sales. Because I generated plenty of sales for a couple of companies, but they couldn't manage the cash, and they couldn't fulfill fast enough to be able to get funding to pay their credit lines. And lost a lot, won a lot. Built now a pretty remarkable company. We've got close to 150 people in our company now.
Wow. Awesome.
And yeah, we started just about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Last year, we were ranked by Inc. 5000 magazine as the 44th fastest growing private company in the nation. We did it all with $0 ad spend. It's been 100% organic, all door to door. Just straight hustle and work ethic. And just a couple of months ago, about a month and a half ago, Simple Solar was actually recently acquired. So I sold 60% of my company to.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you, man. Yeah, it was awesome. It was a long and hard process. Due diligence is a nightmare, and
yeah, you know it, don't you?
Yeah, it's scary,
especially from the accounting side, right?
Yeah, definitely. Due diligence is a nightmare, but we managed to make it through that, and it was a very big win for me and my company, and it put us in a position where we can just go that much faster by drafting with much bigger players.
That's awesome. Tell me a little bit about your childhood and like your parents. Just tell me about that part of your story, if you don't mind.
Yeah, for sure. My family, for the early stages of my life, so I was born in Toronto, Canada, and early stages of my life, my family lived in welfare. Didn't really have money to, had money, just enough money to put food on the table, but that was about it. we moved to the United States after my father got a job at the University of Akron. So my father's a professor. My family is academia. Not really into entrepreneurship. They're very, go to school, get the job, do all that, doctor, lawyer, engineer type of thing. And
what about the accountant, man? Come on, no,
that's funny.
I got
So,
you. Okay.
so yeah, it was total academia, and it didn't make sense to me. I was in school and I was in college, and my father worked there, so you get free tuition. And I was still hustling at that time. Like, I'm going to school, but when I leave school, I'm not doing my work. I'm going out and I'm finding ways to make money, and I'm
Right.
last minute on the way to class, have my notebook out, filling out the assignments, right? Like, I didn't, that it was very low. School was very low priority for me, because I don't know. I always thought, like, okay, my time should generate me money. If I'm doing something, like, why am I not generating income from it? My mind always just worked like generate money. And yeah.
What gave you that desire to have the mindset of generating money when your family was more academia?
I have two older brothers that are 10 and 13 years older than me.
Okay.
And so when I was really young, like, 4, 5, 6, 7, they were always just talking about money. It was always like my parents didn't. My parents were like, we don't talk about money at the dinner table. It's private. My father was the only source of income. He held everything like very tight and close to himself. He didn't really talk about money. It was not something that should be shared. And I disagree. I disagree with that entirely, because money is the thing that everybody wants, but then we're not supposed to talk about it. So if we can't talk about it, then how can we even start to grasp ideas on how to bring it in? So yeah, I think I just got influenced by my older brothers. They were always talking about money. They were always trying to find something to make money. And so as I grew up in my youth and then further on into my adolescence, I think just consistently hearing them talk about it just got me wired to always think about money.
Did you look up to your older brothers?
Not really. No, I didn't. I was influenced by them, but if I look back, I didn't really look up to them, but I was definitely influenced by them.
Who did you look up to?
My first coach, and it's the guy who I've like studied very religiously, is Uncle G, Mr.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was my first coach, first mentor. Actually, the first time that I heard him, I actually didn't like him. I quite frankly hated him. I would follow and unfollow him so many times. I'd watch his YouTube and I'd be like, screw this guy. And this is 2013, so almost 10 years ago.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So you followed him quite a while then.
Yeah, I followed him real early. Before he, he was big, but before he blew up.
That's pretty much how you and I got connected, wasn't it?
Excuse me?
Through that was pretty much how you and I got connected, was through that community.
I think it was through that community, and it was also through Cody Kearns. So
yeah, which is how I know that community. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so there was some synergy there. And I didn't like Grant because everything he said was right. And I was making excuses. I was, as he says, being a little bitch. And I didn't want to face it and own it. So I just decided to dislike the guy. And then my other buddy, Jad, who's also a big real estate investor. I've done a couple deals with him. He was like, dude, he's like, you really got to get on this like Grant train. Like this guy knows what he's talking about. So I gave it another chance, and I was like, yeah not everything.
You were talking about that you failed a lot in the beginning and everything. When do you feel like that you started to get it? What changed? In my book, The Life Ledger, I talk a lot about building a system to reach your goals. And a lot of that goes back to what I believe is in your daily routine. What changed for you to where you started to get it? Because I mean, obviously, man, congratulations again on your business, on liquidating part of that. That is a huge feat. I mean, that is a amazing, amazing feat. And I'm not just saying that just because of the podcast. Like I see the back end part of that. Like it's a job to get that done. So what do you think changed to where you started getting it?
It boiled down to two different things. I realized that I fell under the myth that the for a long period of time I fell into the myth that the average millionaire has 7 streams of income. And I misunderstood it, right? Like I misunderstood it because in my mind it was like, okay, go get 7 streams of income.
Mhm.
And what I later on found out was it probably 95% or more of 95% or more of millionaires, they became millionaires through one stream. And they maximized that flow like so large. And then they later on went to diversify. But it wasn't, there's different stages in somebody's like life cycle as to when they're supposed to do certain things. But if you take a look at like the wealthiest individuals in the world, they diversify later on. They go all in on one thing. And I found myself consistently jumping from thing to thing. I couldn't just commit to one. I would shiny object syndrome. I'd start doing work in one thing and it'd be super exciting, and then it got hard. And then I was like, ooh, no, not my thing. And I would go and jump to another thing. And it wasn't until I moved to California so I could get started in solar. And I stopped smoking weed and I quit drinking alcohol. I'd always made justifications on why it didn't affect me, why it didn't hold me back. I pulled every excuse in the book on why pot's fine, it's not going to affect me. So I pulled for many years. And same thing with alcohol. Is I go on weekends. I just do it, socially. It was when I moved to California. Is I just said, you know what, I've been failing for the last 6-7 years of my life. And Grant says, if you want change, you have to change. And
Right.
He always says, hey, cut the booze, cut the drugs. Like nobody ever wins that game. And I was like, you know what? I've failed for so many years. Let's just see what happens if I actually just decide to stop. And I made a decision just like that. And I just completely stopped. I just completely stopped smoking. I completely stopped drinking. I'll drink a little bit now, maybe like in a year, maybe like probably like 5 or 6 times in a year, kind of more celebratory, but weed is totally out. And I regained my focus. Regained my character, regained my ability just to like continue to go through hard. And I stayed focused on one thing. When I experienced that moment of like, hey, I'm hitting hard, rather than like putting my attention on something else, I was like, look, I'm just gonna go through this hard. I'm not gonna try and go to something else at this point. I'm just gonna go through this hard. I'm gonna suffer through this hard. And I think that's really like the pivotal point, right? Like everything at some point is going to get hard, and you'll just consistently find yourself looping back into failure if you try and go to something else that's easy.
Right. Yeah. So going through the hard was a requirement for you to get what you wanted.
It's a
Ultimately,
yeah, it's a
because you stuck with it.
prerequisite. Oh, it's a prerequisite. Like it's a
So you
prerequisite.
say anybody who's going through a difficult time in their business or their life right now, like going through that valley is the other side is always going to be beneficial.
Yeah, and it doesn't like ever seem like it when you're going through it. But
Right.
it's just like if you're ever going through that, just like hey, get through. Just to remind yourself, hey, just like get through one more day. Like just one more day. Just get through
Yeah.
just one more day.
Yeah.
And
I
I
love that one day
and I
at a
think
time thing.
yeah, I think that's in AA. I think that's the thing in Alcoholics Anonymous as well, right? It's like just you just don't have a drink today. Just one day. All you got to focus on is one day. And that's the same thing you can apply in business. Like when you're going through it and you want to like just give up and in a metaphorical term, right? Like have that drink, like give up. Just one more day. If you can just go one more day, like you'll be good.
How did you know that what you were doing when you were kind of going through those tough times? I don't know if that was with Simple Solar or something before that. How did you know that you're in that right vehicle? Uncle G talks about the right vehicle. How did you know to stick to that one thing? What was your leading indicator on that?
So it only really happened when I got into solar. The
Okay.
the play, like the financial play, makes so much sense. I just can't see myself selling any other product. I mean, if for those of you who don't know how solar works, right? Like homeowner, we do residential homeowners. We don't do commercial or anything like that. That's our niche is residential homeowner. And so how electricity works, right? Like you have this bill that you can never cancel from the utility company, and you have to pay it every single month, and you don't get a return on it except for electricity powering your home, right? Like let's say you spend $150, it goes to the utility company every single month. It's like they're a landlord to you. And I can come into a home and put a solar system on top of that roof. The homeowner doesn't have to give me $1 out of pocket, nothing, literally $0. I'll install the entire system on the home. The system produces all of the energy that the home needs. So you no longer have to buy electricity from the utility company. And rather than paying $150 to the electricity company every single month, you have a fixed solar bill, let's call it $100 a month. And that payment is for the actual equipment. So you're not actually buying energy anymore. Your monthly payment is now equipment. And the equipment bill is developing equity every single month you're paying into it. You're lowering the principal until you eventually have a zero bill. And so you're taking rent and a liability at 150, and you're transferring it into an asset that costs 100, and that asset is producing all of the energy that you need in the home. So I'm literally having to convince people to spend less money, get an asset, and change from a bill that they can never cancel, that can go up no matter what. Historically, the cost of electricity has gone up anywhere between like 8 to 12% a year forever. And I mean, that's a lot of money, right? Like if you call it 8% every 9 years, that doubles. If I can get you a lower bill that never goes up, for like literally fixed, it never goes up. And once you make your final payment, similar to a mortgage, you drop down to zero, no bill ever again. All of your energy is fully produced. It's a bill you can't cancel. Utility companies have a monopoly on homeowners. They really have them on a stronghold, because in most states, I don't know about Tennessee, but in most states, you can't go and pick your electric company. You can't be like, well, I don't want this one, I want to go to this. You're stuck in a situation, right?
Yeah, you're going to use one or two. It's going to happen. Yeah,
that's it. So rather than giving the power to them, you now take the power. You own all of your power. You control all of your energy, and you no longer are reliant or dependent on anyone else. And when I saw that, I was like, this makes so much logical sense. And I mean, the commissions are really, really great. There's government subsidies that pay for 30% of the cost. If you can categorize it as a marketing expense and get referrals out of it, you can then start collecting depreciation on top of the system as well. And I mean, you can really get 50 to 60% of the entire cost of the system taken off through tax incentives, benefits, all that good stuff. And it's such a good product. It helps all people. The only person who doesn't help is the utility company and the shareholders.
Yeah.
To be. It's
right. And it's a pretty simple concept too. I mean, I really like how you describe that. I mean, I have to relate it back to the life ledger, because I mean, I talk about how people spend their day, and they can turn liability activities into asset activities. And so it's like you were saying, you're turning that bill from a liability into an asset, because it's providing future benefit now, not future obligation, which is a really simple concept, and kind of that light bulb going off, right? You're raising awareness of those homeowners going, look, you're paying this bill no matter what. So you might as well take control over it if you're going to be paying it no matter what, and pay a little bit less and get that future benefit of owning all the equipment and everything. And that's, I'm assuming, raising the value of the home as well in the future too.
Yeah, and I mean, it helps with budgeting purposes. You're taking control back. That's our company logo. It's here on the shirt. You can't see it, but it's take control of your energy, take control of your life. You know, it's something that's never gonna go away. Unless you plan to go Amish, but you're obligated to it forever. And it's actually so valuable that people should pay more for it than what they're paying their electric company. It's like if you could rent a home for $2,000 a month, or if you could rent a home for $2,000 a month, or own a home for $2,200 a month, most people would choose to own it, even though it's more expensive, because they get all of the value of owning a home.
Right.
But it's the same exact concept, but instead of them paying more for solar, they're paying less for it.
Yeah. That's great. So as you're continuing to, I assume you're going to continue to grow your company as you were talking about. That's why you had the liquidation event to be able to probably scale and grow faster. A big part, I would imagine, of you being able to do that is recruiting new people, getting them on your team. Who are the typical people you're looking for that are in the right mindset and are the right attitude? I mean, who are you looking for to join your team?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Our ideal avatar, someone around the age of 24, around the age of 24, you're really, really in a good state. We can help cultivate really the right mindset for you. You have enough life experience to be able to get things, but you're just looking for that thing that works for you. You got to hustle. I mean, total grit is so important. We're not an organization that makes excuses by any means. We show up, we do the work. We follow through to our commitments. We work 6 days a week. We work Monday through Saturday. Sunday is our day off. But we are out there grinding every single day. It's probably one of the hardest jobs that you'll ever do, but if you do the hard now, you'll have an easy life later. So,
Right.
so choose your hard, choose working hard now when you're young and you have a ton of energy, or work hard later when, typically you have less energy than when you're 45 years old, you're different than when you're 25 years old. You don't have that same type of energy. And so we want to be able to get people in a position where, 4 to 5 years after they start working with us, they actually are able to establish enough money where they can go and then invest it so that they can actually retire themselves out of doing this job. Like it would be a failure for our company for somebody to be with us for 10 years. We wouldn't have done our jobs properly if someone stuck with us for that long, because we want to be able to teach people how to not only just get money, but then actually go ahead and invest it into the right places so that they can eventually work themselves out of their job and then go and focus on something that I don't want to say actually enjoy, because people enjoy what they do, but something that they might be more passionate about once they've established a significant enough foundation that can support them financially without them having to go and produce active income.
Right. How you talked about them developing grit and like having grit. How do you do that? How do you develop that in your life? How did you get grit into your life?
How did I get grit in my life? I had a really big failure with a real estate project in 2014. I bought this house on a foreclosure. I thought I was going to be done with it in about 4 months, and it ended up taking me 2.5 years. And
Dang. Yeah.
yeah, I had zero experience in real estate, zero experience in construction, zero experience in any of it, and I literally had to learn the hard way. And so many times I wanted to give up. And in that 2.5 year experience, I was resourceful enough to be able to find ways to keep moving the ball forward until eventually, I sold the property, got out of it, took a big hit. But when I went through that, I was like, I can go through anything. Like that was some of the darkest days. Some of the darkest days of my life were during that 2.5 year period. I resorted to the wrong things. I resorted to drugs and alcohol and women and whatever, anything that could help me escape what I was going through. It put me in really, really, really dark times. But there's this quote that says, the darkest nights produce the brightest stars. And I really, really believe that how dark of a scene I was in for that 2.5 year period, it really helped create who I am today. So that's what I had to go through. How to develop it as simple. It's our standards and our culture. It's the accountability that we play. There's this book. It's absolutely remarkable. I'm sure you probably read it. It's called The Road Less Stupid. There's a chapter in there. Culture is king, and he talks about, culture isn't about fun and games and bring your dog to work. It's about playing above the line. It's showing up for your teammates. It's the respect that you have with each other. It's how hard you work. And he talks about, what's one of the greatest cultures in the world. And he talks about the Navy SEALs. And it's not because, they get nap time at the office.
Yep.
It's about how they work as a team and they're mission oriented. So one of the ways that it's established, like individuals in our company, one of the ways individuals in our company establish grit is because when everybody in an organization is pushing at the same pace and pushing so hard, people will naturally rise to the level of the group and the performance of the group or they'll fall down to the level of the group. And so we play at a very, very high level so that we can raise everybody up to play in the same. It's also a sociological thing. People want to be part of a group. So if you have somebody, who could be remarkable and they come into a company, you know, everyone's doing 1 or 2 or 3 sales a month, that person could do 10 in a month, but they're just not going to do that because they want to be part of the group. They don't want to be an outcast. And so they're going to fall down and be the performance of the group. So we always have to keep group standards high. And if somebody is like falling behind, like we try and fix it. And if we can't correct it, despite how much you enjoy or like the person, that individual has to step out of the organization because they're harming so many other people.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I love how you describe that since grit is an important part of your organization, an important part of what sounds like your story, that's what it took for you to get to where you are right now, that you've started to incorporate that into your culture. So if I feel like I've got grit, or maybe I don't feel like I have grit, but I like you, I like the other people on your team, I'm going to develop grit because that's a part of your everyday working with Simple Solar.
It's a
Is that
requirement.
accurate? Like you're gonna develop it and be a part of our team, or you're not, because it's just a part of who we are.
Mhm.
That's awesome. So you're developing that along the way. It's no other experience that they had to have before in their life before they join your team. It's just, if I'm looking, like I've heard maybe in other books or podcasts or whatever that I've read, that you have to have this grit, I can find it at Simple Solar.
You can find the grit at Simple Solar. So like
Yeah, love that.
if you don't find it at Simple Solar, then you don't have it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Man, I love that. That's great. So I really appreciate being here on the Daily Ledger podcast, Mo. I appreciate everything that you're talking about here, telling us a little bit about your story and kind of where you've come from. Is there anything else, what's next for you now that you've liquidated? Like what's next for Mo Falah now?
Yeah, so the game plan is still to continue running Simple Solar. I actually in the process I transitioned out of the CEO role. So we brought in a new CEO. I switched over to the chief revenue officer. So now I get to focus on my strengths, which is sales training, recruiting, building teams. That's my strong suit. So I spent, the last year and a half doing things that were necessary, but that I wasn't quite good at, administrative, legal, tax, law, like just so many different things that is required in a business. But it wasn't my strength, but I was good enough to get it done. Now I get to play in my strengths, and now I get to play in the place where I perform at very high levels. So that's what's next for me. We have some big goals in our organization. We plan to take the company public by 2026. We have a very strong roadmap. We have a great leadership team in place that knows how to do it. And we've opened up an equity pool in our company. So now individuals inside of our organizations now get to participate in the upside of the organization, so that we can really create alignment between us and the individuals in our company. So that's the next plan, right? Like I'm not focused on opening and starting other businesses. It's keep the main thing, and all additional income goes to real estate. That's my game. My game is not, I don't do the stocks, I don't do the crypto, I have some crypto and some NFTs, but like I don't do it. There's zero attention on it. But I'm like 90% of everything that comes to me goes straight to real estate. And that's how I'm gonna build like my future. It's gonna come through that. That's the stuff that I'm gonna pass down. And so I teach my people on how to get invested in real estate, how to get started in real estate, what they can do so that they can leverage their time and leverage their income so that they can get more time. So that's what's next for me, man. Just keep building, keep providing, keep supporting, keep growing, keep influencing, keep leading. Nothing's changing, just more power in the right direction.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mo. I appreciate you taking the time to come on the Daily Ledger podcast. Thank you for always being an advocate for us and being supportive. I appreciate the relationship that we've had over the last few years, and I hope that it lasts a very long time, one way or the other. I look up to you, man. I appreciate what you've accomplished, and and just know that it's taken a ton of grit and failures and successes along the way. And I really appreciate your story and sharing that with us. Thank you
Yeah,
so much, man.
absolutely. Thanks, JD. Thanks for having me.